My homeowners association sent me this, demanding I get rid of my American flag. They called my flagpole an unauthorized structure and started fining me hundreds of dollars. But what this HOA president did not realize was that their petty rule wasn't just wrong. It was illegal. They picked a fight with a veteran over the flag, and they were about to get a lesson in federal law they'd never forget. Before all the letters and threats, life in this neighborhood was exactly what I was looking for. It's the kind of place people choose for quiet streets, nice lawns, and a sense of community. For me, after my years of service, it was the perfect spot to settle down and enjoy the American dream I swore to defend. A big part of that dream has always been flying the American flag. It's not just a piece of fabric to me. It's a real, tangible symbol of the sacrifices made by generations of service members. When I bought my house, one of the first things I did was put up a simple, respectful flagpole in my front yard. Every morning, I'd raise the flag, and every evening, I'd lower it, a small daily act of patriotism. For over a year, it flew without a single complaint. Neighbors would wave. Some even said how nice it looked. My flagpole wasn't huge or distracting. It was a standard residential pole, the kind you see in front of homes all over the country. I made sure my flag was always clean and illuminated at night, just like the U.S. flag code says. I never imagined it would be the center of a bitter fight, or that the very group meant to protect our community. Values would attack a symbol of our nation. That peace was broken by a single piece of paper in a sterile white envelope with the HOA's logo. I opened it, thinking it was a newsletter or something. Instead, it was a formal violation notice. I scanned the page, trying to figure out the jargon, and then I saw it. Unauthorized modification to property. They were talking about my flagpole. According to the letter, my flagpole was an unauthorized structure and broke the community's aesthetic rules. It demanded I take it down immediately. I read it 2, then 3 times. I was in disbelief. They were technically going after the pole, not the flag itself, a clever but flimsy way to frame it. It felt completely absurd. This wasn't some tacky lawn gnome. It was a flagpole flying the flag of the United States. At first, I wasn't angry, just confused. I figured it had to be a mistake. Maybe some new, overzealous board member was trying to prove themselves. I decided to handle it calmly. I pulled out my copy of the HOA's rules and regulations and found broad language about cheat structures, but nothing that specifically mentioned or banned a flagpole. Confident it was just a misunderstanding, I wrote a polite email to the board. I explained I was a veteran, shared what the flag meant to me, and pointed out it had been up for a year without any problems. I asked them to reconsider, thinking a reasonable conversation would solve it. I could not have been more wrong. The response I got back was short and cold. Appeal denied. The violation stood. The pole had to go. This was no longer a misunderstanding. It was a direct challenge. What began as one letter quickly turned into a campaign of harassment. About 2 weeks after their no, another envelope showed up. This time, the violation notice came with a $100 fine. The message was loud and clear. They weren't backing down. I refused to be intimidated. I didn't pay the fine, and I definitely didn't take down my flag. So, the HOA doubled down. The fines started piling up. Another letter, another $100. Then came the threats of putting a lien on my property, a move that could put my home at risk. It was a classic HOA power play, designed to scare you into giving up. They were betting I'd decide it wasn't worth the fight. But every letter just made me more determined. This wasn't just about my flagpole anymore. It was about the principle of the thing. I realized I needed to get organized. I started a file I called the HOA dispute. Every notice, every email, every piece of mail went into that folder. I took dated pictures of my flagpole and flag. I documented everything, creating a paper trail of their escalating aggression. They were building a case against me, so I was going to build a better one against them. With the fines climbing into the thousands and the threat of a lawsuit now explicit, I started to feel the pressure. It was just me against an organization with lawyers on retainer. I spent hours online, digging through legal forums and homeowner rights websites, looking for anything that could help. Late one night, fueled by coffee and frustration, I finally found it. A reference to a federal law I'd never heard of. The Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005. My heart started hammering. I clicked the link and read the text of the law. The language was crystal clear. The Act explicitly says that no HOA can enforce a policy that would prevent a member from displaying the U.S. flag on their property. It was federal law, signed specifically to stop these exact situations. My HOA couldn't legally stop me. Now, the law does allow for reasonable restrictions on the time, place, and manner of display to protect a community interest, like safety or aesthetics. For instance, an HOA might regulate a flagpole's extreme height or ensure it's installed safely. But my pole was a standard height and perfectly safe. More importantly, the Act says your right is protected as long as you display the flag according to the U.S. Flag Code, which I already did by lighting it at night. The HOA's argument was that the pole itself was a prohibited structure. They weren't trying to apply a reasonable restriction. They were enforcing an outright ban, which is exactly what the federal law makes illegal. I felt a surge of pure vindication. This was the silver bullet. It wasn't my opinion against theirs anymore. I now had the full weight of the United States federal law on my side. The HOA board made one huge mistake. They assumed I didn't know my rights. Armed with this knowledge, everything changed. I was no longer on the defensive, I was on the attack. I spent the next morning drafting a formal certified letter to the HOA board. This wasn't another polite email. This was a legal declaration. In the letter, I calmly laid out their entire campaign against me, listing every violation notice and fine by date. Then, I formally stated that their demand was in direct violation of federal law. I quoted the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005, complete with the public law number. I explained that while the Act allows for reasonable restrictions, classifying a standard flagpole as a prohibited structure amounted to an illegal ban on displaying the flag itself. I told them that all fines were null and void, as they were tied to an illegal enforcement action. I demanded they immediately cease all harassment and confirm in writing that they were dropping the case and rescinding all fines. To make sure they couldn't miss the point, I attached a printed copy of the Act itself. I sent it via certified mail, signature required. There would be no, "we never got it." The reaction was beautiful. Complete and utter silence. The weekly violation notices stopped. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing. I can only imagine the panicked meetings with their lawyers who surely told them they had overstepped their authority in a big way. Finally, a thin envelope showed up. No threats, no legal jargon. Just a short, terse letter stating that after further review, the board had decided to waive all fines and was closing the case. There was no apology, but I didn't need one. Their defeated bureaucratic retreat was victory enough. Section 6. The victory. The next morning, raising my flag felt different. It flew a little higher, a little prouder. It wasn't just a symbol of my country anymore, it was a symbol of my victory. The war was over, and the flag was still there. Word of the HOA's quiet surrender got around the neighborhood. A few days later, another American flag went up down the street. Then another. It was a small but powerful ripple of solidarity. The HOA's attempt to suppress one person's patriotism had backfired completely. This whole mess wasn't just about a flagpole. It was about the abuse of power. An HOA is supposed to serve its community, not rule it. They count on homeowners being too busy, too intimidated, or too uninformed to challenge them. But when you know your rights, and when you have the law on your side, you can absolutely fight back and win. This victory wasn't just for me. It's a lesson for every homeowner who's ever felt bullied by an overreaching HOA. Do your research, document everything, And don't be afraid to stand up for what's right. They might have a rule book, but you have your rights, and sometimes you even have federal law. If you believe no HOA should have the power to take down the American flag, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of justice. And let me know in the comments, have you ever had a run-in with an out-of-control HOA?